Happy March. It is March 3rd, 2024, and it's Sunday, so happy Sunday. I wanted to come up to you today about something that I learned this week, and I really enjoyed the idea of looking at the verse and reading it for the way that I found it, and it's just awesome. So let me give you affirmations first. You're awesome, you're amazing, you're unique, you're wonderful. And you can if you try. So the other day, I've been having hot flashes lately, and it's been bizarre because I'm normally cold, but my classroom has been super hot. So when it's warm here, for some reason it's smoking in our classroom, and normally I don't notice it because I'm always cold. Well, the other day it was 85 degrees, and I was already having a hot flash, so 85 degrees was crazy. And I was sweating, and the kids were sweating, and we were all just going crazy. And I took my kids outside. I said, you know what? We need to go outside. We need to get into the cold air. Well, it wasn't really cold. It was 57 degrees, but it was cooler than 85. So we went outside, and I stood them outside for a little while, and I said, you know what? We didn't do our affirmations today. I said, so while we're out here, we're going to do our affirmations. And that's what we did. We stood on the sidewalk right next to our school. And I told them, I said, you are awesome in this. So they yelled back, I am awesome. I said, you are amazing. You are unique. You are wonderful. And you can if you try. And then I said, now turn and look at somebody and tell them that. Well, some of them turned and looked at me. And some of them, one of them was looking up in the sky, and another one was looking down at the earth. And I said, okay, well, whatever, they're kids. So I said it all over again. I said, you're awesome. And they were like, you are awesome. You are amazing. And so I was appreciative of the ones that said it to me, because I need to, people need to say it to me too, sometimes too. I'd love to hear it, especially children who are screaming and yelling at each other all day. It sounds wonderful coming from them. But I was concerned about the two that were staring up into the sky and looking down at the ground. And so I asked them, I said, hey, who are you talking to? And the one that said she was watching the geese fly overhead. And she was like, well, the geese need to hear it. They need to be told that they're awesome and amazing too, right? Okay, no, that makes sense. I don't know if they understood you, but okay. And then I turned and I looked at the little boy who was looking down on the ground. I said, well, who are you talking to? And I said, I know it wasn't the geese, because there's no geese around us except for the ones flying overhead. He goes, no, I think this is an ant on the ground. And I just figured that he needed to know that he was awesome. He can do this. He can do it if he tries, but I don't want to step on him because I don't want to mess him all up. And I was like, okay, you're second graders. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. That's what I need to learn how to do, is go with the flow. So as a teacher, I'm learning. Let's go with the flow. You know what? He told somebody that they were awesome, and trying to build up Ant's mindset about himself is, hey, it is what it is. So anyway, just tell somebody today or tomorrow, hey, you're awesome. God thinks you're wonderful and you're amazing. And no matter what you do, God thinks you're awesome. And I think I'd continue to lift people up. We were at a restaurant not too long ago, my husband and I, and the server looked like she was really having a rough day. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? You need to just stop and breathe. She's like, I wish I could stop and breathe, but I have all these tables. And I was like, but you know what? You're awesome. You're doing an amazing job. And she was like, oh, thank you. I really needed to hear that today. And I'm not saying pat myself on the back or anything. I'm just saying you need to tell people that out in public too. People need to know that they're awesome. People need to know that they're doing a good job. Don't keep looking at them. They bring the wrong food. Okay, well, it's not their fault for one. There is a kitchen. There's a kitchen staff that do that too. But make a positive out of it. Don't make a negative out of it. Because when you make a negative out of it, it's just going to be a negative experience. But when you make a positive out of it, then it's going to be, hey, we want to do something good for them. We want their meal to be good. And my husband and I have been going, when we go to restaurants or we go anywhere for that matter, we want to make it a good experience, even if it's not. Even if we have to wait in the line forever because it takes forever for us to get something. Walmart is famous for that. If you live in the United States, and you know what I'm talking about, Walmart might have one lane open and there might be 200 people in the store, but they don't care. They still only have one lane open. And instead of bickering and being angry and cussing people out, which you hear all the time, maybe make it a positive experience. Turn and look at the person behind you and say, hey, God is awesome. You're awesome. God thinks you're great. God thinks you're amazing. Encourage them, uplift them. And even when you get up to the register, ask them how their day's going. Tell them that they should have a blessed day and that you can be praying for them. I know it's weird and uncanny, and it's out there. You're promoting yourself, and it's okay, but they're going to look at that and they're going to be like, okay, well, hey, they told me that I'm an awesome person. They told me that I could have a good day. And they even said to be blessed. And you'd be amazed how many good responses you get. We were at Target the night before last night, and the lady, she didn't say anything to either of us. My daughter was with me, and she didn't say anything to us. She looked very, have to be at work again. And I looked at her and I said, I hope you have a really good evening. And she looked at me and she goes, I'll try. Well, you know what? I'll try is a lot better than, I hate it when people do that. It drives me nuts. I hate it when my kids do it too. And I tell them all the time, you're awesome. And they're like, why do you keep telling me that? So I keep telling, because I want you to say, I'm awesome. I can do this. I can. So anyway, I just want to remind you, affirm people, give your affirmations, not just to yourself, give them to other people. They need to hear them, whether you think they can understand you or not, whether they're that little tiny ant that's crawling on the ground that you have no idea what it's doing, or the birds that are flying in the sky, affirm. Let them know how awesome they are. Let them know how wonderful they are. We talk to the birds around here all the time. So it's not uncanny for us for me to hear one of my children talking to the geese. If you know anything about blackbirds, I know I'm running off and I'm sorry, but blackbirds around here, they're everywhere. And people hate blackbirds for whatever reason. They look evil. You go into a cemetery and what is the first bird you see? Oh, well, you see a blackbird. They're everywhere. And one of the things that we've been learning is that blackbirds are the smartest birds out there. And if you say hi to a blackbird, it's amazing. It'll come back to you every day and want you to say hi to it. So we have this one blackbird. Now we have 4 blackbirds, but we had this one blackbird for the longest time. And he would sit on the house next to us on the roof. And Chad and I would go out and do whatever. And we'd be, okay, there's a bird there and he's just squawking and he's annoying. Well, then we started saying good morning to the blackbird. And then all of a sudden the same blackbird, because you can't really tell them apart, but you can tell their squawks are different. And he would follow us he or she, I don't know if it's a she or he, but to the park wherever we would go. And even when my husband would drop me off at work, that's 10 minutes away from my house, the bird would sit on top of the school and squawk until we said good morning. And then we would say good morning and then it would go fly off again. And then the next day it would just do the same thing. And we both thought it was kind of odd. Well, we looked into it and we found out that there's the smartest bird that actually exists. So then it went from 1 blackbird. Now we have 4 blackbirds. And my husband goes out early in the morning to walk the dog. And the first thing that you hear is 4 squawking blackbirds around the houses. And actually, the one squawking blackbird that we originally had actually will sit on my husband's truck and wait until he says good morning. And if he doesn't say good morning, he just sits there and he squawks. So it's kind of amazing because as soon as we go out and walk around, the first thing we're going to do is going to say good morning to our blackbirds because they're there and they're actually saying good morning to us. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents about blackbirds. So getting into my today's thought is coming from Philippians. And I need to roll my computer back up because I was reading it earlier and I actually did a recording, or so I thought I was doing a recording. And I forgot to press record. So that's okay. But anyway, so out today, I just wanted to remind you today to rejoice in the Lord always and to keep on going. So I know I've said it before. We need to keep on going, but we can't stop. We can't look behind us. We can't wish for the things that we once had because, well, that was then and this is now. And I want to really let you know that God is an awesome God, and He's got you, and He's going to fulfill everything that He said He was going to fulfill, maybe in His timing, in His way, but He is going to allow you to be part of His plan. That was the whole reason why you were born. So remember, we had talked about once before that you were predestined. You were predestined to do something amazing for God, and you are part of His plan. So don't think for a second that you were born on this earth and you think that you're just going to go walk down the street every day the same way. God has a reason for you to walk down that street. It might be the same street every single day, but every single day, God has a reason for you to walk down the street. You might come across somebody one day that you're going to have to look at them and say, hey, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're wonderful. They need to hear that for whatever reason. They might be the next Billy Graham. Who knows? You honestly have no idea. I don't either, unless you can see the future. And I think only God can really see the future. I mean, I know people have some gifts, but I really think God is the only one that can actually see what's going to happen in the next 1,000 years. So, a goal for you today, or for this week, is to, if you go down the same road every single day and you see the same people all the time, find out who they are. Find out about them, make it so that, tell them how awesome they are amazing, or something like that. Tell them how blessed you are, how blessed they are. They might need to know that they're blessed because they might not know it at all. But you might live in a country that Christianity isn't there every corner, We were traveling down south yesterday right after my exam, and I think we saw 3 churches in a 2-hour period. And I was thinking, wow, up where we live, there's churches on every corner. I mean, you walk down the street and there's a church. You walk down the other street and there's a church. So that was kind of bizarre that there was only 3 churches within 2 hours. It was just a weird setup. And I'm sure in other countries that's how it is. So they may not be able to hear that Jesus Christ is Lord and ever learn anything about Him except for you. Being that person that walks down that street every single day. Here is your job. Here is a reason why you're predestined. This is what you're predestined for. Think about it. So, anyway, I wanted to read this verse to you. So yesterday I took this exam, and it is a math exam that I needed for my education to be a teacher. And last week I went into asking my Sunday school class to pray for it. And with my thought about, if I don't pass this exam, that's it. I don't have any other chances. This is the 14th time I've taken this exam. I don't know how many times I've said that. This is the 14th time I've taken this exam. I do not like math. I am not good with math. Math and figures don't make sense to me because of my ADHD, my dyslexia, everything. The numbers flip upside down, they flip sideways, they go in this direction or that direction. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. In fact, I had somebody teach probability to my class this week because I don't understand probability in my own sense. I can't begin to teach it to my kids. So, anyway, what the verse that came up was Philippians 4. And when I first thought of Philippians 4, I thought, oh, well, rejoice in the Lord always. Well, I do that all the time, And, but it hit me in a different way this time. And so I wanted to share it with you. And, so the title of this is to rejoice in the Lord always and not to give up. Don't look back. So, Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Now, this is the first three verses that I read. And I was like, okay, I've read this over and over again. I'm sure if you're Christians or if you grew up in a Christian household or church or anything, you hear this quite often. There's a song about this, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice, you hear that song. But I thought it was interesting because it's not just saying rejoice in the Lord always. I mean, it is, but it's also letting you know that, yes, you need to pray to God. Yes, you need to rejoice. Yes, you need to make your petitions known. But you are, the thing says, do not be anxious about anything. So first off, don't be anxious about anything. So this exam that I had yesterday, I was super anxious about it. But even though I know that everything's going to happen in whatever time it's going to happen, but it says, do not be anxious about anything. But in every situation, by prayer and petition. Now I can ask God till I'm blue in the face. God, please let me pass this exam. I did that all other 13 times before this exam. And I still didn't pass. So it's not the fact that he's going to give you what you're asking for. It's the fact of the peace. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Now, it doesn't say, and God will give you the answer to your request. No, it says, in the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So, yes, you need to bring your petitions to God. Will he always give you what you want? No. Will he supply for your needs? Yes. Will he always give you that Trans Am that you want? No. Will he always give you that grade that you want? No. Will he give you peace about it, about not getting it? Yes, he will. So let me give you an idea. I have a really good friend. Well, I still have her. She's up in heaven now, but I had a really good friend. I loved her to pieces. And my friend and I, and just give you some backstory about us. I got to know her from another friend of ours, and who was roommates with her at one point at college that I attended before I became a Christian. And my friend at college was like, oh, you should meet her. She's really sweet, blah, blah, blah. Well, her father was the dean of men on the college campus that I attended at the time. And I was like, oh, I know her father. I don't want to become friends with his daughter because I didn't really care for him because he didn't like me at all. I was not the ideal student. I was always in trouble. I was a prankster. So when the rest of my friends would go out for vacation, whether it was Easter vacation or Christmas vacation or Thanksgiving or whatever, I would go hang out with my friend. I mean, she was the only person. I finally got to know her. I really enjoyed her. And she wasn't a Christian at the time. So me being a prankster and the way that she was, the rebellious stage she was in, fit perfectly well. And I remember she had diabetes. And I remember going into her kitchen. And it was the only picture that I have of her. And it's in my storage unit, so I can't get it out right now. But she's standing by the kitchen and she's holding her sugar-free drink. And I remember that day very well. She was asking me if I wanted to drink. I said, no, I don't really like drinking soda. I do a little bit, but not much. But she was like, my dad doesn't like you. And I said, yeah, I know. I know what your dad thinks of me. I'm very aware of what your dad thinks of me. And she was like, yeah, he doesn't want me hanging out with you. And I was like, yeah, I kind of assumed that. I mean, I am, if there was such thing as a black sheep, in a family, I would have been the black sheep of the college. That's just the way I was. So, um, she said, I remember she told me, she said, my dad's afraid that you're going to pull me into your schemes. And then she smiled and she goes, I might teach you some of my own. And I was like, okay, well, we'll share the intel. So that's what we did. So her and I would hang out when everybody else was gone. And her and I was responsible for a lot of the pranks that happened at the college. Everywhere from professor's furniture being on top of the building, because all the buildings down there were flat. So there was a professor that her nor I liked at all, and we got some of the guys out of the guys' dorm who didn't like him either, and they were the muscles of the whole thing, and my friend and I were the brains behind it all. And we decided that we should move all of his furniture, all the professor's furniture, on top of the building. And so Sunday night, when everybody was supposedly supposed to be in bed, because we have curfew at 11 o'clock at that college, I think there were 6 of us total, went over to the room, the building, which was always unlocked. I don't know why they always kept it unlocked. I guess they were believing that nobody would break in or anything. But anyway, we took all the furniture up to the top and put it on top of the building, and it was great. It was wonderful. He was absolutely furious, but they all knew who it was. They didn't ever catch her, but they knew who it was. And then another one that we did was, my friend and I were like, my RD had, I don't remember, I had gotten in trouble for something. I don't remember what it was. But I was mad with her. And so my friend was like, hey, I'll help you with this one. So we climbed in through the bedroom window one Sunday night, and we rearranged her living room. So her couch was like pushed up against to where her bathroom was. So they evidently don't turn the lights on in the morning, which I didn't understand that very well. But she flipped over her couch, and it was hilarious. I mean, you can hear her from the other dorm. But anyway, so that was me and my friend. And my friend showed me how to use Kool-Aid in the girls' locker room, because neither of us liked the basketball team, and they were going to have this huge game. So we snuck into the girls' locker room and poured Kool-Aid inside the shower heads. And when they came out, it was so funny. I'll never forget it. And yes, I have told the college that we did this. But they came out and they had orange and yellow and red all down their hair, all over their white outfits. It was wonderful. We had a blast. Anyway, this was this girl. This girl and I, we just had a lot of fun together. And this is why her dad didn't like us at all. Didn't like me at all. But I was always in trouble for some odd and unknown reason. And but it was a lot of fun. I have to give you that. Anyway, she was that type of person that even when she wasn't a Christian, she was c'est la vie. She's like, oh, well, it's going to happen the way it happened. So, well, and I know that's something her parents, instilled inside of her. And I think that was an awesome concept. I could never understand her, yes, it was going to happen. Whatever happened, but I just didn't want to get in trouble all the time. But I did. But that's okay. Even when I didn't do anything, I got in trouble. But anyway, so she was definitely that person. I always saw her, and she was always, why are you worried about that? Why are you worried about that? Why are you worried about that? Yeah, you worried about that. Just c'est la vie. That's where I got it from. C'est la vie. C'est la vie. That's all she ever would say to me. So, I became a Christian first, and when I became a Christian, I had to go tell her and her dad. Her dad stepped back, and he was like, oh, okay. I'll never forget that. I'm like, really? You don't believe that I'm a Christian? But I would hug her, and I told her about this God that I found and how awesome he was. And I remember she looked at me and she goes, I think you just fell off the deep end. And anyway, I ended up leaving college, leaving Georgia and coming back to where I live. And I went to make amends with my family and, learn how to love them and forgive them and so on and so forth. And, really turn my life around. And her and I fell out of season with each other. And I really wish I had kept up with her. But after a little while, I got an email from that mutual friend of ours. And she was like, hey, have you been watching out for so-and-so's Facebook page? I think you should look at it. And I was like, okay. So I got her up on my Facebook, and she had stage 4 cancer, and her dad had died about 6 months prior to her original diagnosis, and they realized that he had died from cancer that they didn't know until he got sick and he died. So that was a devastating time. I was like, oh wow, my dad had died. I totally understand that. But she was still on c'est la vie, c'est la vie. She say c'est la vie. It happens. Oh well, And I'd be like, seriously, you still have that feeling? And she told me, she said, I became a Christian and I found this wonderful guy, and he's just a wonderful God, and he's just an awesome God, and he's an amazing God. And she was just talking to me about him, and I was like, yeah, that's the God that I found. And she's like, I thought you had seriously fallen off the deep end when I talked to you, but now I realize that this is the God that you were talking about. And I was like, yeah, and then an awesome God. He's just an awesome God. And I do have to put in here, I was kind of sad that the idea of putting furniture on top of buildings was not of God. But the idea of both of us now were Christians was great. And I told her how much I wanted to come and see her and how much I wanted to do things with her. And she was like, Christy, you can't. I'm sick. I'm having to move in with my mom. I can't really do the things that I want to do. I have to quit my job. And we knew each other for a good long time. And she was a really good friend. And she was one of the first people that would talk to me about this verse. And she always told me, Christy, read Philippians 4. You have to read Philippians 4. And I'd be like, I'm not reading Philippians 4 again. I mean, I've heard it all my life, and it's not going to be anything big and spectacular. But she died I want to say in 2022. Forgive me if I got that wrong. I believe it was a year after my surgery, because she would tell me things like, you don't need to be anxious about that. Keep going forward. Keep going forward. Don't look back. Don't look back. You've got this. You can do this. I know you can. God gave you the ability to do this. And then she'd look at me and she'd go, Christy, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die. And I'd be like, no, you're not going to die. It was 7 years after the doctors had told her she had stage 4 cancer, and it was eating up her entire body. She had it all over. I can't remember if it started out as pancreatic cancer or what, but I remember whatever it started out with, it, in the end, it was all over the place. And she went through so much chemo, so many, this will happen if you do this. And she was in different studies and everything else. And every time she'd be like, but rejoice in the Lord always. And I'd be like, why are you rejoicing? You're dying. And she's like, I know I'm dying. But I'll never forget one of the last conversations her and I had. I said to her that, she told me, she said, Christy, you can't sit around and do nothing. You have to get up. You have to move. You have to keep trying, because God is using you for something spectacular. And he's using me. I mean, it's been 7 years since my original diagnosis. And she told me, she said, Christy, God has you, and he's not going to let you go. He's going to continue working through you and in you for everyone that he thinks you will touch. And she said, my time is coming to an end. I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die. And she said, but it's okay. Because that just means that I've successfully made it. I've made it. I've made it to my goal. My goal was to be just like Christ. And that means the day that I die, I'm actually there. So that's my goal. My goal is to be like Christ. My goal is to be just like Christ. And I know that when I die, I'm dying not because the disease won that I have, the disorder won, or it took over my life or whatever. I want to be just like her. The day that I die will be the day that God is done with me because I have succeeded my goal to be just like Christ. So let me read this verse to you. It is Philippians 4:4. And I'm going to do 4 through 13. So rejoice. I just read the first part, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. I've rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content in every situation, in every circumstance. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Now, I have lived in plenty of different situations, and I can tell you that the peace of God is exactly what I was given. The peace of God transcends all understanding and will guard your heart and your minds in Christ Jesus. So whatever you're dealing with, whatever it is, whether you have cancer, whether you have Chiari, whether you have some disability, or degenerative disability or disease that's taking over your life, don't give up. Keep on going. Keep on going to the next day. It's going to be hard. I'm not sugarcoating anything. It was difficult. Every day that I walk, I have to tell my brain to do stuff. And most people don't. And I know, like at church today, I was sitting and I had to tell my body, walk straight, because I'm not attached fully. So my brain and my body commands, they don't operate the same way. I have to tell myself, down, up, over, sideways. I even have to give myself directions, left, right. I do it all the time at work. And my kids are like, we're going right now, right, Miss Piper? Yes, we're going right. And I have to tell my brain, go right. And my kids will tell me, Miss Piper, you said go right, but it needs to go left. So then my brain's got to go left. So you need to do this. If you need to talk to yourself, I don't want another drink. I don't want another drug. I don't want to stay in my little hole, my little bubble for the rest of my life. I need to get out. I need to keep going. I need to try, because you can't stay. You can't stay in your spot. If the waters don't flow in the river, they get stagnant and nasty, and no fish will want to live there. Or they can't survive. You don't want to be stagnant. You want to keep on moving. You want to be the streams that keep on moving. You haven't passed this exam, well, then take it again. If you have the ability to keep on taking it until you can. And if you don't pass it, you know what? Maybe it wasn't God's will. And you know what? If it's not God's will, He'll give you peace. He'll give you peace that will transcend all understanding. It's peace that you'll be like, whoa. Well, if I pass it, I pass it. If I don't, c'est la vie, right? C'est la vie.